on the rise now. Endless celebrations all in my house. Levitating now, I'm super duper fly now. London boy, but DC where I reside now. Put the time in while you always yelling time out. And for quit it, cause I know I'm coming with it. You were sitting, you were wishing I was handling my business. Now I got the ball like Harry Potter playing Quidditch. And my business is humongous, you would think that happens in there. Damn man, I'm all that, yeah I'm all that. Looking for that whip, yeah that what you call that. I'ma blow up in the summer, have him yelling fall back. And I've always been ahead like an effing ball cap. Man, I came in the game like whoa. Got a couple chains on me cause I like gold. They told me I'm the best and I told them I know. Cause when I'm in your town, every ticket I sold. Yeah, they saying I'm the man. Facts bro, lot of haters, tell me where they at though. I'm the new pop, all I do is rap though. Want me on your song, throw a couple stacks, yo. Everybody wanna do the same thing. That's why we ain't on the same page. Do my own thing, and I maintain. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. I'm going mainstream. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. Yeah, I'm going mainstream. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. I'm going mainstream. Mainstream. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. Yeah. I'm going mainstream. Damn. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream.
like a Hellcat. Like a Hellcat. Like a Hellcat. Like a hell. Like a Hellcat.
You push my buttons, way that you know best. Forget instructions, they don't make a difference. Power me up and pull me out my shell. You're in control, I think I like it. Become my hero, be my fantasy. Fantasy. Break all the rules and love me dangerously. Won't you join me? Corrupt me slowly, a bad influence. And I never put up much resistance. Cause when you call my name, I lose myself. I lost control, I think I like it. Become my hero, be my fantasy. Fantasy. Break all the rules and love me dangerously. Won't you join me? Become my hero, be my fantasy. Fantasy. Break all the rules and love me dangerously. Won't you join me? Ooh, they think I've got no reason to give myself a right to share what I believe in. Ooh, they say I've got an issue, always on the edge, cause I don't trust. But I don't need your word on what I'm into. A freak into my ego, forbidden if I make it mainstream. And I don't need to wake up to your whisper, forget it with some liquor. Damned if I ever have dreams, but I've got that wildfire head. And I've got that wildfire, and I've got that wildfire head.
Speaking of making the work, it's great. Finally making some inroads here on behalf of.
So he gets in the back. Shadows.
Oh my!
Oh,
Hello?
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 Uh-oh.
Hello?
Blur? Hello?
I don't think there's time. They're not gonna get back in touch. Nobody's noticed. No.
33% to a bomb, but BDR sitting with 3 ultimates, 4 ultimates of their own. This next fight.
They can follow up a little bit of a glitch. This perspective could be used. I think this is everybody. He does.
The anti-nade came through, and as much as we saw, man, this is dirty. Oh,
Yeah,
no.
Alfie, I'm popping it on everyone. The long spawns in Overwatch.
Wow.
Actually. It looks like look at Killer Talks. Oh my god! be the difference. Pioneers coming out. Sevren trying to take up the difference. Let's get it! Oh, Everton!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the final day of this Pride Cup here, this Overwatch Pride Cup. I am Ultrism. Joining me today is Blur to bring you the semi-final match. Blur, how are you doing?
I'm doing really, really well. I'm really looking forward to seeing the match today between Sevren 11 and Need for Feed.
You know, both these teams are doing well. Like, this is so cool to see so many of the big names in the South African Overwatch scene making it to the end of a tournament like this. And with this tournament, it's been getting such amazing hype. There's been so many cool people who've been joining in. Like the chat, you say today, already there's banter in the chat today. So people seem to really be enjoying this. And now we're starting to see like some really high level Overwatch for a really cool cause.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of these players now that they've been playing with like some randomized teams, and they've started to get a kind of sense of how each other play. There's some synergy building, there's some general strategy building, and it's going to be really interesting to see how these two teams who've played very distinct ways interact in this game today.
You know, I love the fact that it has been randomized teams. So if you guys are joining us for the first time throughout this tournament, the way that this has happened is that the players have applied to be part of this, and then the teams have been sort of mixed and matched to be pretty much all on a basic level with each other. And it means that you've got players of lower skill playing with players of upper skill, players who've never played together coming together. And I just wonder how much these players must learn from each other in a tournament like this, where you go in and you get to play with people of completely different ranks, whether you teach them something or they teach it to you.
And one of the big appeals of the game is, of course, that it's like, you know, if you're a high ranked player, you're imparting the knowledge you've gained over, you know, your experience and playing in high ranked scrims and high ranked games, but also you're learning what the kind of level of people below you is, how you kind of need to teach if you want to go into something like a coaching role further on than this. And that's really nice. And if you're a low rank player, obviously you gain a lot of experience. You gain a lot of that kind of understanding of the game that you maybe don't gain in kind of silver, gold games, and the scrims you would play at that level. So it's really interesting to see these two types of playstyles clash, and these two types of like understandings of the game clash, and kind of work towards a common understanding and work towards making the most of the assets they have at hand. And that's very much what we've seen, you know, from a lot of these players. A lot of these players, it's not the first time in a randomized cup. We've had 2 talent cups, and we have former winners of those cups on teams. We have former players of last year's cups in these teams, and it's really interesting to see how these players kind of repeat those kind of patterns and repeat those kind of rhythms of playing and teaching and learning collectively. So it's going to be very interesting to see today how they develop through that.
You know, they've got to be coming back for a reason. Obviously, they must be getting something out of it. And just, if you guys have never entered into a randomized cup before, and you are anywhere in the South African Overwatch scene, like, even if you think you're a terrible player, join into these sort of things, because this is how you get involved with it, and you make friends, and you just... Solo queuing sucks. Get some friends. There we go. There's a tournament for you if you guys really want to start playing Overwatch competitively, because you must learn so much. And, you know, players of the same level or lower levels as you still have stuff to teach you. And, like, you might be playing with someone who plays completely differently to all the friends that you play with on a constant day-to-day basis. You know, when you only play with a certain group, you learn to play around only that group style, and you kind of get blinkered towards what else is happening in the Overwatch scene. And so it's sometimes nice to just go and join another team and then bring back some of the knowledge that you've learned, even if you're in a team already.
Yeah, and looking at these two teams today, there's a broad range of players from like numerous different teams in the scene. You know, some familiar faces, but also some faces that are playing on opposite teams to each other that we're used to seeing together. So what do we have on the side of Need for Feed, Alt?
So on Need for Feed, we've got Noppies and Cena. They're taking up our 2 tank positions. The team now just all over the place in terms of where they're coming from that you're talking about. We've got these guys sitting here. There's my screen. Right, sorry. I was on the wrong tab. So Cena, the lowest ranked player on this team, coming in here, taking that off tank position there. Really nice position for a player who really wants to learn a lot is off tank, because you've got such a stalwart big Reinhardt shield that you can just use them to judge your pace, judge your aggression, play with the team, and then you can start building up your mechanics and how to use your abilities. He's got Norpies, who comes from Rage Quit Odyssey there as the main tank, who's just going to be leading that front line for his team. On your DPS, we've got the combo, both of them coming from Overclock Esports. We've got Go Outside and Cerulean Wolf, who are... The nice thing is when you got two DPS players who are used to playing with each other, you can get some really nice focus fire on targets. They can get communication, really take down targets quickly as a team, which could be the reason why these guys on Need for Feed are currently unbeaten. They are 4-0 in this tournament. Bringing up your two supports is going to be 420 coming out there. And Smiley, 420 coming out from Evo, and Smiley coming out from Leyden to bring it up. So a lot of big team names coming in here, and that's why this team has gotten so far in this tournament and done so well. On the other side, we have Sevren 11 and Blur. You know a little bit more about this team.
Lots of players that are very familiar to me there. Seraphim, Darkstar on the tanks there. Seraphim replacing Babs today, who's unfortunately had a little bit of a technical issue with his monitor. I'm hearing unconfirmed reports that he broke it in a fit of rage, but these cannot be confirmed at this stage in time. Conjecture, of course. But looking at what's Seraphim, a very experienced player in a number of roles in the scene, and a finalist from the 2018 Talent Cup, can bring to this roster will be quite interesting. Darkstar, a teammate of his from Leyden, an off-tank for there, should be holding the same role there. Colby Ginja and Hilarious are actually Mito and Sevren. Mito is Hilarious, Sevren is Colby Ginja. There are two remnants of the GG roster that have made their way onto the ADG Snorlax roster of this year. So lots of experience there. Mito, a former Talent Cup winner from 2018, and both of them constant participants within the scene. And, you know, it's good to see those players kind of recurring in the space and, you know, here to help these players learn, here to help people grow. And, you know, it's really good to see them continuing to play. They're on off roles today. Mito's on projectile DPS, Sevren's on hit scan DPS, where they would usually be tank players. Mito, though, of course, a story player in the local Overwatch scene on the projectile DPS. And then heading up the support line, you've got Asterisk and Shadows. Support players with a little bit of experience. Shadows coming out of the Rage Quit Odyssey lineup, and Asterisk coming out of the Leyden lineup, but both very experienced heads in the community, and you know, we should be seeing some consistent performances out of them. Some nice clashes between these teams, though. You know, we're seeing Mito and Sevren coming up against Cena, who they actually played with on Talent Cup last year, but also within team spaces, Knoppies against Shadows, Asterisk, Seraphim, and Darkstar against Smiley. You know, lots of nice little interactions in that sense, that players from the same teams are coming up against each other in this tournament.
I love that the South African Overwatch scene has grown to that point, though, that we have such history between players that it's not just like these are random people that we've matched against in a public match or something. The guys get to know each other. The teams have played together before or played against each other before, even in randomized cups. So I wonder how much they've remembered from those last cups. You know, you play so many matches in a tournament like this sometimes that you're just like, I played against that guy once, but I can't quite remember how he played. And unless someone like really stands out, in which case you go into that with a little bit of foreboding.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll see that today. If there's a little bit of an interaction between these players going forth, and kind of like just playing, just like seeing if there's any of that remnants of the past successes and failures together. And you know, obviously, I'm sure a player like Cena, who was very new to the Overwatch scene then, remembers them fondly and remembers that, like, how they helped him there. And so it'll be interesting to see what kind of interaction develops off here. Well, looking at the map we have on hand here, we have Lijiang Tower coming out first. And Lijiang Tower, you know, between the two choices, we've probably seen Lijiang Tower more than we've seen Busan in the early roster of this tournament. And Lijiang is a map that contributes to quite a few different playstyles. And we've seen a lot from Need for Feed, a very high disruption playstyle, very much, you know, playing to kind of dismantle the enemy team composition. And Lijiang Tower kind of does contribute itself to that with a very open gardens platform and a very tactically diverse night market. The only one that we might see a little bit more of a set playstyle on, we might see a little bit of a broady playstyle on Control Center, but we'll have to see how that develops coming into the map here. On the side of this other team, what is their name? Sevren 11. We've seen some very tactically diverse comps throughout this, but you know, a good position, like for them to actually show how they've grown as a team and how they kind of synergize and are able to play together here. So coming into this game now, like we're heading into this garden stage first, very nice wide open space. It's going to be interesting to see how it develops.
You know, it's what's interesting for me about these maps is Lijiang, especially not places like night markets and the gardens, are very much, if you can get to be the first team on that point, it can be very difficult for the team to counter that and to actually take that point away from you. It might, in fact, take a large amount of the percentage. So you got two teams, they've been playing together the whole of yesterday, and they have had some time together. They may have now, you know, woken up today. They've probably spent maybe a little bit of time warming up today, but this is going to be their first time today in this tournament. And when you're not used to playing with a team like this, it could be interesting to see who takes that upper hand very early on in this first matchup.
And looking at what the teams are coming out with here, Sevren coming out with quite a safe comp here. They're going to be playing their tanks slowly on the ground along with Colby Ginja to kind of just add some pressure, and then giving Hilarious the time to look for the picks on that Pharah and get really consistent damage out. And we're already seeing that coming through here.
Wow, Darkstar, they're pushing in very aggressively, but the team was so, Need for Feed was so focused on him walking in through those doors. It was spotted well that they didn't see the damage coming out here from the side of 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven picking up that point very quickly here already. I mean, they're on the point and it hasn't even unlocked yet.
And we are seeing a pause come out, so probably a little bit of a technical issue or lag issue coming in here. But yeah, you have to say from 7-Eleven, it's a very nice, consistent play style coming out there, pushing in quite aggressively with the tanks on the ground there, and the nice the spam healing of the Moira there. You can see the Moira already on 60% ult charge, so they're definitely getting value out of that. And on the other side, you saw Mito spamming in some really, really nice damage from the angle with that pocketed by shadows. And that's really going to be kind of a story of this round, I think. On the side of Need for Feed, they're playing very, very close together. Very rush the enemy team and try and get the pick here. And if they can't get in that space quickly enough and get the value from rushing them down, we're going to see a situation where we likely see them actually just get spammed out of this map before they can even get to points. But if they can get their pathing right, if they can get their hero choices right, then they probably fancy themselves to take the brawl out really early in the game.
You know, they got a lot to push into, though. If you look at 7-Eleven, when you've got both an Orisa and a Reinhardt, you've got that basic bunker comp where you can actually sit back and choose your positioning and make Need for Feed run at you. And when Need for Feed has a very designated time to kill, otherwise they're going to lose the fight. They can't take that super sustained point. So you just got to give it to 7-Eleven that you can't rush straight at them when you've got a McCree who's got that flashbang who can they can absorb a lot of push very, very easily. And then you got Hilarious sitting on the side with the Pharah getting some sort of off angle. Between the Moira and the Mercy, you got so much healing to absorb. You got the counterplay from the McCree. You've got two big shields that can stop Need for Feed running at you. And an off angle Pharah who's taking on a lot of damage. Need for Feed has to come in with a very set plan, I would think, in order to counter that and work into that sort of amount. But you can't really half-ass that.
Yeah, and I think, you're looking at this roster and you're maybe thinking maybe we see Cena on the Diva here to just eat a little bit of that Pharah damage so they can advance. We see Go Outside taking the wide angle here. And maybe we even see them switch onto that kind of Wrecking Ball style composition we've seen them play so much throughout this tournament, because that might be what they need to displace the very clustered tank combination of 7-Eleven. But, that's all conjecture at this point. The control point hasn't even unlocked yet. We might still even see a map reset, because it's a very early disconnection from Cena in this game.
I'd be interested to see if it was a map reset, how these teams would change up. Would you consider as Need for Feed running a Pharah against a team that's very static and you've got this, sorry, not a Pharah, a Widowmaker. Need for Feed taking out a Widowmaker to try and put some pressure on Hilarious in the air. You got no one from 7-Eleven that could really contest and get on top of the Widow. You've got some decent nice sightlines.
Yeah, I think the Widowmaker's a bit of a risky pick, especially because they're playing quite an aggressive comp. The Widowmaker has to it's a feast or famine DPS. It's a DPS you either get very quick value with or no value with. And I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to hedge their bets on killing the tanks. Because if you kill all the tanks and, the only thing left is the pharmacy in the air, you have a good advantage. And immediately we see them switching onto this double hit scan setup to try and just zone Mito out of the sky very early in these fights.
I like this choice from them. Cena not going to be changing onto that Devo, but Cerulean Wolf going down very early in this fight on that McCree. Just Hilarious being able to do so much in the air and just put damage out from such distance. And managing to pick off the soldier as well. That means Need for Speed going to be walking into this with none of their DPS. Norpies is going to go down fast enough. And before Need for Speed even get towards the point, 7-11 has won this fight and just needs to clean it up.
Yeah, and looking at the type of playstyle they're playing, I'm very surprised to see them switching off that Lucio early in this game, because that was what's really going to help them get into the fight and start brawling out. And you know, it's surprising to see the break there because they've got nothing really challenging them on the backline. Now we see the Wrecking Ball starting to come out and an Ash coming out instead of the Soldier, so they're really going to be looking to disrupt this team and make sure that they're uncomfortable on point before they start to try and collapse.
You know what I like to see though is Need for Speed has very quickly changed. They knew that they were being outplayed. They knew that it wasn't working. And so regardless of whether this is a well thought out strat, it's a quickly decisive strat. And they've only managed to lose 60% now of this point. They've got some time to get in here, start poking some damage down. They've got the Coalescence, which they're going to use to start this fight. They're going to be pushing into a lot of ultimates. Both DPS is going to have their ultimates. Asterix using a Coalescence of his own to just keep them shoved down in that corridor. And so now with that shield damage, 7-11 has managed to last that first little bit. Go outside, has managed to get the early pick-off kill. Now actually following that up with a kill on the Mercy. And so Need for Speed take a bit of an advantage in this fight and can now start pushing their advantage here into these two tanks. They've got the barrage from above, does manage to take out Go Outside, but gonna pay with his own life as Hilarious now going down in this fight. And Need for Speed has pushed out onto this point. They've managed to get some position, and with 94% down, they've won the fight that they needed to.
Yeah, and I just feel that what we saw in the early stage of this game was very, almost too safe from the side of Need for Speed here. They're playing a very safe composition, a composition that you would expect to be seeing, not necessarily from them though. But in this situation now, they've switched on something they're clearly more comfortable on. They're comfortable on this on this kind of more disruption style playstyle, and that's something that you see them come in and win a fight. But now with one fight win condition, lots of ults on the side of 7-11, will they be able to hold out here? Will they be able to show some resilience?
They've got that sustain that's going to be coming out from the Valkyrie. Oh, that's going to be big. And Norby's managing to knock Seraphim off the platform there. Now they've got to have the Coalescence to just shove the rest of 7-11 back. And now time to chase them down. They've got the mobility to do it as well. Norby's just not wanting to commit those bombs behind them to shut it out. And 7-11 just losing that fight with a simple but magnificent play coming out from Norby's.
Yeah, and I think that's a good choice from Knoppies not to commit that minefield there. Now they're going to have 3 to 4 ults coming up in this fight versus the very stacked bank that we're seeing coming out of 7-11 here. So, you know, they've got a little bit, they can be a little bit resilient here. They can try to be a little bit resilient to the threat that they're going to be coming in with on the side of 7-11.
7-11 did have that percentage advantage. They could have forced them out at the beginning of the fight, and they have started doing a lot of it. Nopi's going to go down in the beginning of this fight, dropping off the edge there. Cerulean Wolf managing to get a bit of counterplay there. Shadows managing to pick up Asterix. So 7-11 looking quite healthy. They're going to have to endure this bomb that's coming in over the top. The Deadeye kill, though, gets the double kill. Cena managing to get one of his own, but the rest of 7-11 is pushed onto the point fast enough that it doesn't matter. Now we see Nopi's dropping the minefield on there to try and stall this out a little bit. Has to stay alive, just keep that percentage ticking up. He's only got 2% to play with, so if he does give that position over to 7-11, it's going to be a very quick win for them. So Need for Speed now starts stalling it out. They've lost 2 of the very mobile players. Diva good at stalling out, and Bob's going to certainly help out on the point now. Cena managing to be on position for long enough to stall this out, and they've clicked up to 98%. So the winner of this fight going to be taking it, but now it's 7-11. They've managed to take out all the kills that they need to. It's going to be Need for Speed just trying to stall this out as much as they can. The clicker has ticked over to most of the way for 7-11, but at the end of the day, dropping all the ults that they need to, they managed to get the point.
And that's really, really good play there from 7-11 to just know their win condition. That said, though, really nice comeback there from the side of Need for Speed there, showing that there's a little bit more in the tank. They're not just going to be a push over for the side of 7-11. You know, they know what comfortable and they know what they're strong on, so hopefully we see a little bit more of this coming out and then really start to impose a bit of an advantage in this game as they go forward here.
You know, for me, I talked about it at the beginning, that whoever takes that first point really does have an advantage. You manage to get the slight ult economy, and it's difficult to push into, especially if your team comp has been countered quite severely. It means that you have to change up and even further lose that 20 to 30% ult advantage. And from there, it was good for Need for Speed to be able to push back, and fortunately 7-11 had built up enough economy there. So it's going to be interesting to see how they come here into Night Market.
Yeah, and coming here, it's a little bit more claustrophobic, and we're seeing them already come out with that Symmetra to try and deny entry to the point, but still playing this disruption playstyle. It's a little bit all over the place, and we're seeing already the side of Sevren getting a little bit of an advantage because they're not really comfortable running this all together with all these different playstyles, I don't think.
Need for Speed has done well to get that early positional point and has absorbed the first push now from 7-11. 7-11 pushing in hard, but they are going to be going in to go outside with a massive charge on that Symmetra cannon. And so as both teams start to pick out some players of their own, it's going to be the tanks left alive for 7-11. Both the healers down though, which means it's going to be difficult for them to consistently sustain this. And they are getting pushed back now. Need for Feed getting onto the point quickly and making sure to make that count.
Yeah, and that's really nice play there from Need for Feed there to just get a little bit of an advantage in that fight and really hammer it down. Really good pick off there from Cerulean Wolf to take out Mito and Shadows very early in that fight. And we're already seeing the Symmetra swap coming out, the Tracer coming out instead. And that maybe helps follow up when Knoppy slams a little bit more.
You know, when they've already won that positional advantage, now they're going to be using the Deadeye. Manages to pick off Hilarious and Shadows in the sky, just obviously overextending just a bit too far on that left-hand side. And so that's going to be a massive amount of damage that they've lost now with the rest of Need for Feed communicating really well, just following it up with these two mobile tanks and pushing 7-11 all the way back into their base.
Yeah, and that's really, again, really nice play from the side of Need for Feed to really deny the entry of 7-11 into these fights. It's a composition that's very, very centered around making sure that the team is uncomfortable in how they engage. They can't play the corners they'd like to be abusing with the Reinhardt. And again, with these ults coming out here, maybe we see a little bit more of it going forward here.
Lots of ults being dropped. The big one is going to be Darkstar. If he can get up that last 4%, he's going to have that hammer down, and there's going to be no counter for it. Now he does manage to get a lot of the team, putting them on their backs, but there's no follow-up just yet. Colby Ginger manages to get out 420, but the rest of Need for Feed is still very alive, very well. That minefield shutting it off quite nicely, pushing back 7-11, and 7 now trying to get back onto the point. The pin comes out on the Diva, managing to get back. Cena just retreating, has still got that self-destruct. Darkstar managing to get that pick off, though, with the Fire Strike. Lots of damage going down. Cerulean Wolf would have liked to have been there, especially with Guardside also going down. No DPS coming out for Need for Feed, but they got the positional advantage. That Cena bomb manages to take down Shadows and Hilarious, again falling to an ultimate very quickly. And Need for Feed now almost at 100%, has to try and hold on to this for a last little bit. Cena valiantly as the Diva trying to hold on to this. Has managed to get up a little bit of support, not going to be in the form of the Hammond, but the Pulse Bomb goes onto the back of Darkstar. That's going to be big, and somehow Need for Speed, after just contesting this point, has managed to turn this pressure around. A great barrage comes from above to take out 3 there. The heal's going to try and come out, but 7-11, Hilarious managing to turn that fight. Somehow, though, Need for Feed still taking this fight at the end of the day. Clocks down overtime and from 0 to 100% at once.
And I think that's a really, really nice switch up we're seeing from Need for Feed here. They're very comfortable in this hard disruption style playstyle. And looking at this, the way this match is going, you'd say this is probably how what their kind of win condition is. This is what we're expecting to see them coming forward with for the rest of this game and really make their advantage count. So hopefully we can see a little bit of that come forward into the control center here, but I'm not sure they're going to have the same reliability of that disruption in the control center. Here we're probably going to see a little bit more brawl, a little bit more, structured composition, and it's a bit dangerous to see whether or not they're going to be able to maintain that playstyle in here.
I've liked the variation coming out from both of these teams, though. Like the compositions coming out from both of them have been flexible, and they certainly are doing well with them. For the first time, we're going to be seeing the Junkrat from both teams, both of them just understanding that those very fine, tight little corners are so susceptible to that spam.
Yeah, and I think that's something that both teams have been quite willing to play in this game. They're forsaking the use of the Mei instead of deciding to spam down those choke points and make it really, really difficult to breach them. So let's see if we get that, keep that going on. But actually go outside, dropping first here in this fight, and Knoppy's falling soon after.
The 2 DPS coming out here for 7-11, even Seraphim managing to get a pin there. And 7-11, after poking and prodding, just kept that high ground for half a second longer and managed to utilize that to get the spam into the chokes and just clean up the fight. Once they had put enough pressure on, the rest of the team fell very quickly.
Yeah, I think this is going to have to be they're going to have a little bit of positional awareness here, because Hilarious took a position behind them, and just this uncontested Junkrat spam was something that absolutely threatened them out as the game went on there. Coming to this next fight here, they still have the Junkrat, but they switched to Need for Feed have switched to the Tracer, and I'm not sure that's the pick here.
The Earthshatter is committed there by 7-11, and they managed to hold the positional advantage, now cleaning up and getting the rest of the team up to a little bit more ult charge. A very quick fight, but Need for Speed's going to have to do something to get through this choke point. They're going to have to get creative.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to really think about how they're engaging it. And although the teams don't seem to be playing the Mei actively here, I think it might be an option for them to really just mitigate a little bit of this Junkrat spam. Because to this point, they're not even entering, they're not even able to get through this door. And here comes the Junkrat tire out to try and deny them even further.
Oh, it's going to pick up just the beginner. But if you look at how fast that Reinhardt shield is falling, Norpies can't get through the door. He can't get to the door at any stage. He can't buy any time for his team because between your do you see the Earthshatter coming down? That's actually good enough to get a couple of them. And the rest of the team from Need for Speed has pushed up very quickly. Colby Ginger pulling out the triple kill and then the Dragon Strike. Oh, come on, takes out the entire team. Please give him the player of the game right there. That's it.
You're expecting that's not just one of the players again, that's one of the players of the tournaments. You're seeing them come in for that Earthshatter, actually absolutely disrupt the playstyle of 7-11, but then, you know, out comes the grab, out comes the Dragon, consistent playstyle, consistent use of those abilities to really deny them the entry, and they still haven't got past these doors.
Cerulean Wolf has swapped up onto the Doomfist just to try and have some sort of flank coming into this, but with only 5%, it's going to be a Doomfist trying to just contest the point for long enough that the rest of the team can push in now. They don't have too many ultimates. We see the Graviton Surge coming out. It's managed to pick up 3, followed up by the Earthshatter. Need for Speed finally managed to have the break that they needed. Cerulean Wolf now going to be taking out Hilarious, finally contesting that Junkrat on the back, and Need for Speed at the last final hour.
But you know, it's a last chance or last stand for them here, and it's very similar to what we saw in Night Market. That on the side of Need for Speed, they're taking very long to get into the playstyle they want to play, and on the map that they're not really going to be able to play a substantially different playstyle to what they have been, they might struggle to really get into these fights the same way.
I like the fact that they realized that Junkrat contest was not working. They were losing it. It was certainly the positional advantage. That's Junkrat's biggest strength. And once they had lost that positional advantage, they had to change something up. And so Cerulean Wolf going onto the Doomfist, just making sure to threaten that Hanzo and the Junkrat at the back. Beautiful play, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it worked really nicely there to really make an opportunity for the team there. But looking forward here, you know, they're already having to back up onto point here, and with that Junkrat taking up a really wide flank again, it's going to have to go outside, putting a lot of pressure on him to make an opportunity here.
Ooh, that tire just always, it's like an assassination tool. You can just choose who you want to. Nice charge comes through onto the back line. Seraphim managing to get that Norpies kill early on, and Norpies had that Earthshatter. That could have been huge for this. Graviton Surge is going to be committed for this, and 7-11 with overtime ticking down just takes the fight that they need.
And there's a little bit of surprising decision making here from the side of Need for Speed. The fact that they haven't been running a Lucio, which would help them get through the spam. A Lucio, which would help them defend against that Grab Dragon combo that's now ended 2 fights very convincingly for them. It's a situation that you don't really want to be seeing from these players here. It's a little bit of decision making that they maybe have to consider going forward here to make their lives a little bit easier going forward. But here we have it. Colby Ginger's Dragon Strike into the Graviton Surge, really winning that fight so convincingly when it looked like they might not be able to in the beginning of this fight.
I love it that he didn't even get all 6 with the Dragon Strike. He gets the double kill at the beginning, and then he gets the flick shot and go outside there. Just not needing the Dragon Strike for everything. But, you know, when you've got Hilarious sitting on the back there, 60% kill participation, he just has to aim at the little box where the other team is running through. Like, you don't actually have to aim as Junkrat. You just have to know where they're going to be. And then just put lots of bullets there and go, right, step into this death zone. Enjoy.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's a really nice piece of awareness there from the side of 7-11 to know that, you know, if we have this Junkrat, we just let them walk into the space that we want to be spamming. We back off. We give them that spam value. We get that value from our player really playing a very oppressive play style, and it's similar to what we saw from the Pharah, but it's more direct because the inside of that control center is very claustrophobic. But coming forward from 7-11 here, you know, you're expecting to see they haven't looked comfortable. As much as they played their first couple of fights well on both Control Center and Night Market, when Need for Speed came back in, they looked strong. They looked like they're a team with the ability to take the wind out of 7-11 sails. And we saw it on Night Market that, you know, they were able to really convincingly take Night Markets with that disruption playstyle. So I'm thinking if we're looking at their map picks from here on in, we're probably looking at a map pick that allows them to play this disruption style going forward and really start to put the pressure on 7-11, put the pressure on them to play in a different style to counter what they're doing. And so we will We'll have to see whether or not it's something that develops throughout this game style, the interaction between these two teams. But 7-Eleven looked very strong in that brawl, looked very strong in that brawl bunker, and I think that's the playstyle we're probably going to see quite a lot of them playing during this series.
You know, to me, 7-Eleven looks like the team whose plans are working. You know, they've got very definite plans. They understand that how they want to apply the pressure. You know, that to me is how 7-Eleven has won these 2 out of the first 3 maps. Was the fact that they put the Pharah in the air at a weird angle, and Pharah did so well there. We had Hilarious managing to get all the picks that they needed combined there with Shadow's Mercy. They put the pressure in where they wanted to. They had the Junkrat putting down pressure where they wanted to. They controlled the space. They controlled the game very well. But Need for Feed was taking great fights. And so they had to mix up sometimes, change up their team comp to counter it out. Maybe didn't be they didn't preconceive an idea and then win the fight, but they reacted very, very well, and their reactions were good enough to win them their fights. So it's going to be interesting, especially when you're going into King's Row now is going to be our second map. We've got our hybrid map where you got the first point, which you just have to assault, take it, secure the point, and get the payload starting. And then you're going to escort it the whole way up. So there's such a combo of how do you attack, and then how do you sustain and maintain that pressure? It's going to be interesting to see if the plans from 7-Eleven can take out the consistent brawl and adaptability that Need for Feed has been bringing to the table.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we're gonna have to see in this map. This map very brawl favoring, so I'm actually surprised they're picking this one instead of Hollywood. As much as King's Row is a staple within the local community, we've seen 7-Eleven really take the advantage in these brawl style play, and you know, Need for Feed, they're either gonna have to play a really strong bunker and control space from afar, or they're gonna have to play that really disruptive Wrecking Ball style, both of which are could be a little bit harder for them to pull off on King's Row, especially without the synergy as we've talked about in a randomized tournament. You know, they haven't been drilling this for weeks and weeks and weeks. They got together on Monday, probably a couple of times during the week at most, because you know, here they are. They're taking they're trying to mix it in amongst their team practices and trying to make this something that they're able to really come into the tournament with at least some plans. But you know, they're not going to have that same kind of execution that you would expect from teams to be able to break these static points. And if they're losing out on the brawl and they're not able to flex around it, you know, it might be something dangerous that we could see them really fall behind on here. But we'll have to see what comes out from them here. In terms of comp selection here, we're already seeing the Brawl Bunker coming out again from the side of 7-Eleven. And I mean, you know, what else would we be expecting here? It's what they know they're strong on. It's what they're doing, you know, that's really gave them an advantage both on the original Lijiang Gardens map and then gave them an advantage on the Lijiang Control Center map. So they're going to be probably sticking to their guns here, trying to avoid putting themselves in too much of a vulnerable position, and knowing how Hilarious likes to roam on this Torbjorn from what we've seen in the game so far. You know, we'll be seeing a couple of picks coming out on the backline from a very angry Swedish man.
Oh man, that Molten Core, as soon as he gets that up, if he manages to get it up fast enough, it's just going to be like the most adventurous thing ever. Up a stairwell, jumping over 2 buildings, bouncing off a statue, and then like spraying down as he backflips over them. That would be fantastic. I would watch that movie.
Looking at the side of Need for Speed though, we're seeing a little bit more of a poke bunker. They're going to be playing a little bit further away, taking their time, spamming in. So a little bit difficult for Torbjorn to get value in these fights. As I say that, he's already starting to get some damage out. But, you know, it's very difficult for him to get value in these fights in the same way, especially if the picks start to come out from the side of Need for Feed.
I just like the amount of time that a Torb brings you, and that seems to be what both of these teams are going to be trying to do, is just win the long fights. We're not going to see too many dive, big engages or anything like that. Both of the teams just need a bit of time to get their headshots going. Cerulean Wolf getting the pick off Colby Ginger in the beginning, but backed up by Shadows, you're allowed to take slightly more risque shots like that, because if you can win that fight, you can do so well. Hilarious there, managing to take out 420, so that adventurous Torb definitely paying off. I mean, look where he is. He's standing behind the Orisa, putting shots into her back there. So Hilarious, definitely the running around, jumping through the backlines. Very Lord of the Rings there.
Yeah, well, they have his axe, and he is certainly making it count in these fights, giving a lot of damage pressure onto the backline of the side of Need for Feed. And quite surprising considering the early picks we saw coming out in their favor, that they weren't able to clutch that fight out. But really, really good play there from the side of Hilarious to really put an advantage on the side of his team there. And coming into this fight, still very neutral in ults, but both the Molten Core and the Bob about to be online, and that could stall this fight out for a very, very long time.
That's big. Colby Ginger was facing off against Guardside in the Ash battle on the top line. Colby Ginger managing to get past the Ashe and actually take out Shadows in the backline means the Mercy goes down and Colby doesn't have that support to go forward. Now we see the Molten Core just securing a huge amount of space there in the center, managing to get enough kills, just again comboed with that Bob, means that they've got all the positional control that they want. And 7-11 again holding very comfortably.
Looking at what they're going to be coming into this next fight into, though, you'd say it's quite an expensive fight for 7-11, using their Bob, using their Molten Core, and using their window there. You know, the Shadow is going to be difficult to land on these double shields, especially if they're trying to keep a little bit of distance from you. And with the Bob on the other side coming in, the Dragon Strike coming in comboed with that pull, you know, the damage output of the extra damage output of the Bongo is going to be quite important to making sure they can even have a chance in this fight.
Well, we see the Bob just initiating there, trying to get some position on. Now a lot of damage coming out of Shadows and Hilarious. Hilarious going to be the one to fall, in fact. Shadow's going to go down just afterwards. So that Bob securing their place, just shutting down shutting down 7-11 into corners that Need for Speed felt comfortable engaging. And then just the pressure came out after that and managed to get onto this point and now just secured by that Valkyrie.
Yeah, and that's, you know, this is a good situation for them to be in here. You know, they've got a couple of ults, well, they had to use quite a few ults to take that point, but, you know, they've got the cart moving now, and maybe with a more adaptive win condition, a point that's not as easy to hold because it's not as static, they might have an opportunity. But as we say that, Cerulean Wolf getting picked off immediately by Colby Ginger.
You know, we speak all the time about the importance of getting through this archway super quickly, because if the defending team can push up to that and keep you out there, they managed to get the Earth Shatter even through the shields, but not managing to push through and just follow up on that. So Shadow wasted it early in this fight. Need for Speed are going to be happy about that, and Cena is going to be looking to initiate now. He has got the Gravitic Flux up in there, pun intended. They're going to be able to shut down the back lane, especially if they can catch him out of position. And Need for Speed are getting the picks that they need to put the pressure. They've managed to flank around a little bit. Smiley jumps into the air, just going to abandon their go outside into that corner. But big committal coming out from 7-11 here. Darkstar in the back line, and now they're going to be fighting in a very, very close quarters. Need for Speed starting to get a lot of the picks that they need, but they haven't pushed the card. They've in fact pushed it halfway through the streets phase while the battle rages on behind it. The Orisa just managing to escort it the whole way.
And that's absolute disaster if you're 7-11 here. You've given them so much like free push. You haven't contested the carts, and now, you know, they're coming up to what's going to be a staggered last fight. You're probably going to see Bob used just to contest the cart. They're going to have to be very careful here. Otherwise, this could be a really uncontested point, really. And that's not what you want to see from this very claustrophobic, very easily defensible streets phase.
And there we see Bob going straight out. Is going to be there to cover fire, but they're going to have to push through the Dragon Strike. Managed to avoid it quite nicely. Just leaving Darkstar on the front line is going to be able to be there to contest the point. But his shield's gone down, and it means that the cart pushed forward strictly. They cannot afford to get off it now. They're getting the picks that they needed, though. Gravitic Flux comes out. It's going to start controlling them down. But Seraphim getting enough damage out there, and so they allow now Darkstar to just charge forward on the Reinhardt. He's only got 4% left until he gets to his ultimate, and they're going to be very happy to hold it there at the end.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of a misplay there from the side of Need for Speed there, especially considering how late that Gravitic Flux came out. It could have been a lot more impactful if they just played a little bit more defensive, backed off a little bit, seeing that the side of 7-11 were coming in, and really decided to pressure out here. Here now, though, we're seeing a switch to a Genji, which is a bit surprising considering how strong Torbjorn is against a hero like this, but it is a hero that we've seen Cerulean Wolf play to a very good effect in this tournament so far, and hopefully we can see him pull off the same kind of heroics we've been seeing throughout this tournament.
The Bob gets committed. He's going to be smothered in the Molten Core as well and taken down very quickly, but such a good play from Hilarious. Just dropping that single ult to combo that completely. Just shutting off that main road with that Molten Core meant that Need for Speed could not push. They've tried to find a different angle now. Cerulean Wolf has gotten the pick on the Torbjorn that he needed, so he's going to have a little bit more space in here, picking up the Seraphim Orisa as well, but there's going to be the rest of his team that needs to follow into this. Instead, Colby Ginger manages to find the space, managing to pick up a triple kill there and just contest this point ever more, just not managing to shut down that Ashe in the backline. It's going to be Noppy's trying to contest this point for no particular reason. I mean, they've still got 30 seconds left on this. Didn't need to drag it out the end there, but it's going to be difficult for Need for Speed to now get back on this point.
And I mean, that's the situation where it's now from a really opportune situation. Now it's turning into a little bit of a nightmare scenario for the side of Need for Speed here. They're not really getting the value out of this Genji they really want. They're getting a pick, but it gets res, and he has to do so much groundwork to even get into the fight by taking out this turret that he's getting devalued simply by the existence of another hero.
Oh, I love this window that's come out there. Somehow Cerulean Wolf has managed to get up his ult in the beginning of this, has managed to take out Bashlix in the backline, but that turret just imposing its will and just shutting down the position gives Hilarious his ultimate as one. It's going to be able to be pushing back Need for Speed in this fight. They're going to have to try and push through, but it's just the Diva that's going to be going in alone. No one else can push onto this payload. And again, just this positional play from Hilarious shuts it down, and 7-11, after looking like they were going to give up that Streets phase for very little, managed to hold it.
Yeah, and I think, it has to be said that as much as it's down to a really strong defense from the side of 7-11, it's also down to a very strange decision-making process from the side of Need for Feed. It's very strange to see that Genji coming out, considering the value they were getting out of the Torby, or getting out of the Hanzo there, and especially considering the nature of the area you're playing into. You're playing into this very close little corridor where there's always going to be, there's always the chance for that turret to be at an off angle, and the amount of legwork they had to do to even get into that fight. By the time they'd got picks, whether it was equal, whether they'd used ults, whatever, it put them in such a bad situation that, by the time he had his ult, it was too late. By the time he was able to get a pick onto Sevren or onto Colby Ginger on the Ashe, it might have been too late for him as well. But going forward into this half now, you think if the side of Need for Speed can get control of this map early, can start with a really strong defensive first point, they give themselves a chance. But otherwise, it's a very difficult second point to hold if you're giving them a lot of time to take it.
To me, 7-11's lineup in that first round just was all about making time. You had the Torbjorn who just gave your team a little bit of time to get back, recoup, just get safe constantly. And then you can poke out from there with people like the Ashe. And they were doing so well with it that at the end there, when they were getting pressured by Need for Feed had them on the back line and was able to push them hard. Now in this game, we see Cena and Norpis both taking up that double shield bunker composition, so they're going to give themselves a bit of time. And Go Outside's going to try and spam down that choke, just keep pressure on them, but it's a big area to try and push in, and you've got the angles that you can work on between Hilarious and Colby Ginger going to be coming out on those DPSs for 7-11. It's going to be up to them to find the space that they need to push into it, and they're pushing in very quickly now. 7-11 into the face, just using that great grab from Seraphim to get Need for Feed into the position that they want them. Somehow Need for Feed, though, has kept up that defensive position. They've managed to get those shields up for long enough and keep the healing going for long enough. They've turned that pressure around. Darkstar is going to go at the beginning of this fight and leave Seraphim in a very open position. All alone here. He's got that Ashe on the high ground. Well, he had that Ashe on the high ground. Now there's piles of Ashe lying there as Shadow's going to go down as well. And Seraphim going to be the last person stuck there. Now, 7-11 going to still fight this out, though. Still going to drag this fight out. They've got some pressure now, especially with that pick on Go Outside. They've got Junkrat down, and so 7-11 got a little bit of positional advantage, but not really picking any specific fights here.
And I think it's not really this fight or these early fights that you're going to be seeing the value out of 7-11 here. You can see they're playing towards the win condition of that Nano Blade here. And if you're looking at the other side of Need for Feed, they have no defensive ult. They have no way to stop it if it puts pressure onto them. And especially if they lose this point before that happens, that could be absolutely devastating for their chances in this map.
Well, this is going to be big. They've lost Asterix with that nano boost right now. They would have liked that, but it is going to still keep it alive there for Hilarious. Going to be looking for that nano blade to come back in here. Colby Ginger still managing to do a little bit of work, and so the rest of 7-11 having to split up now, get some picks where they can. Colby Ginger doing it, though, that they need to. Hilarious gets one as well on Cerulean Roof, and now they're managing to push onto this first point. They've still got 2 minutes left on this clock, and they've put such good pressure on here. Asterix and Hilarious going to have to do something very special as they're coming in. They've got this position as with the nano blade still in the pocket. Need for Feed's not going to be able to get back in and contest.
And this is a nightmare situation if you're Need for Feed right now, because you're coming into a team that has 5 ultimates online. The Dragon Blade, the Nano Blade, which is going to be an incredibly high value combo. The Valkyrie, which is going to push them through the fight. And, an Earth Shatter and a Supercharger to really clean that up. On top of that, the Ashe going to be online, and you still don't have your Riptire. You've used your Coalescence, you've used your window, and your Orisa taking so much damage, you're not even guaranteed that you'll get this even fight. It's dangerous, and it's tough for them to even consider winning this at this point.
I love the fact that they've got so many types of ultimates. You know, you got your sustain coming out from Shadows on that Valkyrie if they need it, if they start getting pressured on themselves. They've got some control that they can put forward. Cerulean Wolf actually going to be the one to get the pick off, dropping the first ult in this engagement, does manage to take out Hilaris. So that's going to be the first damage ult that's going to be rendered useless here from 7-Eleven. But 7-Eleven's got some picks of their own. They managed to get the res on the Genji, so that Nanoblade still going to be offline though as Asterix goes down as well in this fight. And so Need for Feed going into a team with 6 ults somehow pushes him back through this archway.
But again, you have to be saying, you're looking at the ult bank and you're saying it's starting to get expensive for them. But if we see another situation where 7-Eleven aren't using their ultimates, this could be a really dangerous situation, because then you're starting to get diminishing value from that.
There we go. They've dropped the ult now. They don't manage to get anything out of that Earth Shatter. They've dropped the Nanoblade, and that Nanoblade's finally starting to pick off. Taking a long time to come online here as he does manage to chase down the rest of the team. So a lot of ults dropped there. So far, 3 for this team. Hilaris is going to be in trouble there. Manages to get out in time. They've still got 3 ultimates, and they've got a single team fight to win. But now we've got 2 and almost a third coming out for Need for Feed.
Yeah, and you know, we're looking at the position of the card here. It's one corner. So if they don't play this perfectly, and with Cerulean Wolf already dropping down, it could be curtains already for them.
So we see the contest coming out there. That anti-heal grenade on Noppies is going to take him out of the fight for a long time. He's going to have to get back in time. The rest of his team is going to go through. We do see the tire going through into the background. They only managed to pick up Shadows, and that's not going to be the team-winning ult that they needed. Oh, that anti-nade goes on and just pushes Need for Feed off completely.
And you just have to say it's poor fight management, and that's half for Need for Feed there. They didn't consider what their win conditions might be. You're sitting in a situation where, you know, you gave this Genji so much value. You gave this, the Ashe in the high ground so much value, and they didn't contest her. And that eventually led to their first point loss, which then meant that coming through the streets phase, they got half the streets for this Blade, which we originally were expecting them to be taking. You know, like using to take the first point, because although, you know, they were using their ultimates well and they were getting into position, we expected compositionally that Need for Feed would be able to hold out at least until a big ultimate combo broke them down. But it turns out not working like that in their favor, and it's back to the drawing board again here. King's Row, an odd choice, especially if you're struggling against a brawl at very kind of zoning intensive comp. So, you know, in this next game now, we're gonna have to see how do they lean into a composition and into a map playstyle that's gonna let them really play this disruption playstyle that they were finding so useful on Lijiang Tower. How are they gonna get into this situation where they can play that disruption, play a little bit, introduce a little bit of chaos into the lines of 7-Eleven, and maybe try and like poke at this game and see if they can bring the reverse sweep forward? Because that's their condition now. It's do or die now. They have to reverse sweep 7-Eleven, otherwise they are out of this tournament.
And if you look at it, Need for Feed has been taking good fights. They've definitely been winning fights concisively and decisively when they can. But they're not winning them consistently. You know, that Streets phase, they had the upper hand. And when you don't manage to complete Streets, it wasn't that 7-Eleven flattened them there at the end and that there was no way for Need for Feed to contend. But it was just that 7-Eleven knew that all they had to do was get to the end of Streets. They didn't have to hold any big ults and try and manage their ult economy or anything like that. They stacked up 6 ults, chose the fight that they wanted, ran at them, pressed Q on every hero, and won the fight. And then that just won the Streets phase for them. They didn't have to. They dropped the ults that they needed to win the fight. But when you get that Dragon Blade out, that Nano Blade at the beginning, gets 2 instant picks and then starts chasing the rest of the team, they won the fight because they didn't have to keep anything to try and contest what should be the hardest point to defend or the hardest point to attack.
And that's exactly it. That's exactly the situation we end up coming into here, is that, you know, that was a bit of bad fight management from the side of Need for Feed, because, you know, they didn't manage the expectation that they would have a Blade. They didn't switch to a Lucio or
we've seen so much swapping up and adjusting coming out from Need for Feed in these games. It's been really good to see them willing to change up compositions.
Something that...
And you're back for half a second. And now you're gone. You're back. This is the fun we have as casters. Is I get to play a game of Simon Says, and when he doesn't talk, I get to talk. Fantastic. So, we have seen it for...
You know when you see a Genji, it's happening. I think. Am I here?
And you're back.
Fantastic. Cool, go ahead. I think I interrupted a thought of yours there. My bad.
Something like that. So it's been interesting to see how willing Need for Speed has been to swap up their composition. And now we're going on to Dorado, an escort map, so they have to play consistently the whole way through. And when you've got such distinctive areas that you're going to be playing into, some very 3D areas at the beginning of the map, then you open up into that wide open market. You're going to have a team that can play all the fights, all the styles of interactions between the two teams well enough that Need for Speed, hopefully they can win all the types of the fights and engagements that 7-Eleven have been holding off against them.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be quite crucial looking for the rest of this game now. You know, you're going to see Need for Speed wanting to get that hard disruption playstyle that they have been so successful with and use those first 2 points of Dorado to really emphasize that playstyle. The third point might be a bit shaky for them, and maybe they have to stack up ults and maybe they have to play a little bit differently there. But I think the first 2 points, certainly, they have a very good chance to get an advantage in.
It's going to be interesting to see how both of these teams approach this. This is obviously a best of 5, so Need for Speed having to do the last and final one. Otherwise, they are going to be out of this. If you guys have not been following yet, this is the Overwatch Pride Cup, where these are randomized teams joined together through fate and destiny to lose. Well, most of them, except for one team that we're going to get at the end of the day, the undisputed Pride Cup, taking home that coveted prize of the Discord role. And the bragging rights of we can play, and you know, especially for the lower ranked players, my big thing would be I'm not my SR, you can't define me by my number. And then I would be amazing because I could be like, look, when I play with decent teammates, we rock at this. So like that would be the biggest bragging rights that I would take out of this tournament.
Look, guys, I'm good, except when I'm in solo queue. But yeah, looking at the playstyle we're going to be seeing from these two teams here, on the side of 7-Eleven, again, that very consistent, that Arissa Ryan, that's Ash coming out again, the Torbjorn coming out again. We've seen them run this comp. We know what they're going to do. They're going to play safe, they're going to play consistent, and, you know, that's what we expect to see them doing for this entire game here. On the side of Need for Speed, however, here comes the Wrecking Ball, here comes the Tracer, here comes the Genji. It's time for them to now start switching this up, start putting themselves in an advantage, and, you know, playing this Wrecking Ball has been something that they know that they're strong on. So whether they can make this work is going to be crucial to them winning this map.
I like the attitude coming out from Need for Speed, though. They've got intent. We are going to fight at our terms on our positions. Like, they've got all the guys who can push in and take the fights, all the heroes, but they've got to worry about Hilarious. That Torbjorn, again, already up to 27%, just because they can keep such a bunker around that Torb turret on the high ground. But Need for Speed just poke as they need to, not losing anyone, just respecting the power of that turret, managed to take it out now, and now they can start pushing this fight on their own terms. And that's what I like about Need for Speed. They're playing their Overwatch for the first time, like really with intent from their side. And so 7-Eleven, so used to initiating into these fights, has had to just back up, get pushed all the way into the market, and Need for Speed looking quite comfortable here, just poking whatever angles that they want.
Yeah, it's a lot of free space for them to take early on in the fight, and Knorpy's especially getting a lot of value just disrupting and making 7-Eleven very, very uncomfortable in the early stages here.
COWSA gets the key pick, manages to take out Shadow. Shadows would have been there to raise up anyone else who needs to. Colby Ginger going to be taking out Cerulean Wolf, but that's only one of the threats that you need to worry about. Knorpy's going to go down in this fight, means that it's going to be difficult for the rest of the team. It's going to be a lot of their disruption. But the big one's going to be Hilarious, just getting so much value out of that Torb turret that he manages to secure such a position. If you look at how far apart that Molten Core was spread.
Yeah, and that's just an immense amount of space control that he's granting his team there. But looking here, you know, into the rest of this round here, you're thinking maybe, again, it's the situation that, you know, it's a situation that they're going to have to consider what their DPS choices are. You know, you don't have to run the Genji and the Tracer with this. You can run more oppressive long-range DPS. You can run a Pharah. You can run a Widowmaker or an Ashe. And they're getting very zoned out by this Torbjorn turret that's of Hilarious here. And it's something they're going to have to consider if they're going to be taking space in this game.
No, Need for Speed is 100% that. It almost feels to me that they've gone, guys, this is the idea. We're going to put a lot of pressure on them. Everyone go on your most comfortable dive-in character, and we're going to make this work, poke and prod as we can, get the picks, and then push it. And they're just not getting the value out of it. They're not getting the picks. They've managed to build up a lot of ultimate charge, but when you got Kobe Ginger on the back line, headshotting Cerulean Wolf's Genji like that, it just means that does manage to get picked back up, but the rest of his team now are going to be pressured, and it's up to 7-11 to get that positional advantage that they want. Now that position is going to be denied and threatened by a good minefield into the back line. Does a lot of damage, but not going to get any kills out of the back line. And so now they've started to split up the rest of the team. Half of those mines, in fact, landing in the air, just shutting down, I don't know, the Flying Mercy somehow. But it is going to be the Molten Core dropped almost all in the same place, though. So it's not going to be easy for Need for Feed to, or it is going to be easy for them to just avoid this. And they finally put some pressure and scattered the side of 7-11, taking that position that they wanted. And it's going to be 7-11 going to be able to contest here at the end of it. So Need for Feed need to consistently take this fight out. But they've got some ults to use with it. That's the first one. The Coalescence being dropped at the beginning of the fight. And here, Hilarious going to be a massive pick. That Tourbillon notch here means that that turret isn't a problem anymore. And with that bongos being dropped, it is going to be 7-11 though, just managing to take the fights, any fight, a little bit more easily with that extra damage.
And it's just, you know, we talk about the Molten Core not getting much direct value there and then being able to kite it, but I think that's kind of the point. It took them so long to get onto Cartier because they had to avoid the Molten Core that they're not able to actually clinch out the fight. And here we are, 30 seconds left on the clock. They might not even capture this point one. And although we've seen them like on the front foot in these fights, 7-11 keeping their heads, keeping composed, and actually knowing what they have to do to actually just win these fights out. It's something that, you know, I talked about the DPS needing to swap it up. We've seen the swap ups here. I'm still not sure the Doomfist is the right swap versus this Tourbillon, but the Hanzo definitely a better pick in my opinion to try and just add some extra pressure.
You know, the Doomfist, it worked for them on Lijiang. Let's see if they can get it now. They do manage to get down that turret at the beginning of this. The Diva Bomb not going to really find anything though. So Cena going to be left now at the back lines, not managing to get the pick. Instead, the pick is going to come out from Kobe Ginger. He's managed to get so many good headshots so far that his Bob is going to even finish off now. Just managing to get that, and somehow Hilarious has got another ultimate now. Again, half of the bombs from Nope is just landing up in the air, stuck against these walls, and no one from Need for Feed going to be able to contest this. 3-0 goes to 7-11.
And it's just such a like absolutely it's a misplaying of the fights. You know, it's to lose fights like this where you have the front foot, where you have the positional advantage, where you take control. It's, you know, something's wrong with your composition, something's wrong with how you're taking these fights, and we're seeing a lot of Cerulean Wolf getting put into a very, very difficult position because he's playing heroes that aren't optimal here. The Doomfist isn't optimal, the Genji isn't optimal. As you know, the same thing with Go Outside. The Tracer wasn't optimal there. You know, and once Go Outside switched to the Hanzo, he was able to survive longer, poke in further, but at that point in time, 30 seconds left on the clock, it's not enough. You know, they have to be thinking this out. We know they play this Tourbillon. We know they're good at this Tourbillon. And conversely, we know they play this Genji. We know they're good at this Genji. Are we going to play a defensive ult this round? Because that's the only way they're going to win this out, is if they don't fall victim to the ultimates that they've been plagued against this entire game.
Oof. Yeah, that's a difficult thing to ask of a team, but like it's what they have to do. They have not given themselves a lot of breathing room, and when you're defending for this long at, you know, the 81.79 meters that it takes, that's two team fights. That's it. And so 7-11 can really take as long as they want to win these team fights. So Need for Feed has taken up a little bit more of a defensive position. They've managed to Go Outside on the Widowmaker, just trying to exploit this long early sight lines. They need to defend the sight lines. You know, they don't need to worry about the rest of it. If they lose this part, then they lose. Cerulean Wolf going to secure some high ground there with the McCree, and 420 on the Zenyatta, going to be just keeping a bit of consistent heals and trying to threaten anyone who comes to jump that high ground with a Discord Orb.
Yeah, we're seeing a little bit of a stylistic switch up here from Need for Feed, deciding to mirror this kind of safe bunker that they've seen out of the side of 7-11 for so much of this game. But Hilarious taking this wide angle again, and that could be enough to get past and just put the pressure on Go Outside and really give them an advantage in this fight.
Oh, we see Kobe Ginger now coming out on the Genji. We've seen him do so well on this Ashe so far, but manages to get so much value already, up to 54%, just threatening that background and threatening those high ground. Oh, Cena just somehow surviving for that long on nothing. Just eventually gets taken out, and somehow 7-11 has already pushed this halfway. You know, they just need to win this fight. Need for Feed doing well though. They've managed to turn this pressure around. Now Norby is doing well to just put that pressure back, just secure that team fight out. And good early fight from 7-11, but not managing to contest all the way yet.
I think if we're looking at 7-Eleven, they'll be very happy with this fight, though, especially if you look at the interaction between Colby Ginger's ultimate charge and 420's. 420 is going to be the crucial ult in defending against that Dragon Blade, but here he is on 58%. He's not close enough. This is not what you need from your Zenyatta. He needs to be hitting those shots, needs to be getting that ult charge up, and if he doesn't, this game could be very short from here on in.
Well, there it is. There's the Dragon Blade. They've got that immortality field, and as soon as that drops, it's going to actually open up an opportunity now. They've also got the nano boost. They dropped that onto the Reinhardt, so it split the fight into two definite positions. Golby Ginger in the backline manages to get out 420, so no way that Zen ultimate is going to come out, and so quickly they knew exactly when they were going to win the fight, and they took it.
And I mean, that's exactly it. You know, we're seeing a situation whereby, you know, it's just they played their win conditions better. They played their win conditions a lot better than the side of Need for Feed were able to. And at the end of this game, he doesn't need the nano. The enemy Zenyatta doesn't have his Transcendence up in time, where he really, really needed it. And, you know, we can talk about the strategy and how it interacts with it, but this is the most straightforward interaction you'll see in this game. A defensive ult you need, not there in time, and that's the game. That's the game for the side of 7-Eleven here, winning this match 3-0 to send them into the grand finals, the Pride Cup.
They're going to be very happy with that. You know, they just played everything well. They didn't ever look weak as a team. It was nice. We did see Need for Feed taking that single map on Lijiang, and that one was 100%. But 7-Eleven was still trying their win conditions. They couldn't get them to work at that stage, but the whole way through, they knew what they had to do. And the rest of the time, when you play the smarter game, you don't need to play the better game. You've won 70% of the team fight by the time you walk up to the other guys if you're doing it properly. If you know what you're supposed to do. If you know that here's how we win this. We get the space, we wait for the... We do this after the Immortality... We put the Dragon Blade after the Immortality field and before the Transcendence. Ta-da! If you can do that, it's going to take something special for Need for Feed to shut that down. Then it becomes an expectation of they have to somehow stay alive and survive that sort of onslaught.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at this team here, they played very well together, and there were a bunch of really good, consistent performers in that team fight. So looking at that team, you know, we had some really great damage coming out. We had some really consistent tanking and some great heals coming out. Who would you say would be the standout performer on the side of 7-Eleven? The one that really or from these teams that would you would say would be the player of our match today?
Ooh. You're putting me on the spot. You're supposed to be the expert. You know, I love the fact that we had their... goodness, he's just dropped off now. Mito did very well in putting on a lot of damage, but I'm personally inclined to give it towards support players, so I like the fact that Shadows did well, but I'm going to have to give it to Sevren.
Okay, so Sevren, the player who was so oppressive on that Ashe, did so much damage and really took away their King's Row point 1 without actually having to expend too many ultimates, and thus gave them an easy King's Row point 2 push. You're saying there's the player that we say would really be the difference between the two teams. He was a big player today and really, really strong.
I think that the fact that they could always take the fights, they had a strategy, and the fact that they could then execute them, and you know, they went into every team fight. When you know knowing is half the battle, the other half is hitting the headshots. If you got someone who's like, dude, we're buying you all the time and space in the world, and then can't hit the shots that he needs to, can just counter those plays so well. I think that's it. What do you think? Who would be your second place?
I think you know, if we're looking at individual players, it's probably Hilarious then. You know, it's funny to say, you know, Mizo and Sevren performed so incredibly well in the semi-final here, but they are big game players. They always have been big game players, and to see them coming out here and deliver again, Hilarious has been so consistent that Torbjorn shutting down the flanks. You know, we can't underestimate the amount of work the tanks and supports put in. They did a lot of healing, they did a lot of good forward work there, but the pressure there that they put in to actually just secure that fight and do damage and absolutely make sure that the individual components of the Need for Feed team weren't able to kind of like just compose themselves together. You know, it's just really good play from the DPS of 7-Eleven, and specifically, you know, Sevren today, who have as our player of the match, to shut the side down.
Let's go.
In fact, well done, Sevren. You must be very happy with your team going into this. Congratulations. We've given you player of the match, just being able to put such good, consistent pressure on the other team. And taking it 3-0, you must be excited going into the finals.
Yeah, I think we're pretty prepared, or as prepared as we could be, but This team, I think, is not a lot weaker than the team we'll play in the finals, but they're not on the same level, so we're still kind of worried, you know, just a little bit.
Yeah, well, obviously we're looking at a team in need for feed that came out of their group 4-0 up. So, you know, seeing the top team of the other group come up against you and really like get rolled aside, you must be feeling very confident. Do you expect to see the other team from Group A come through, or Group B come through, or you're expecting to see, you know, the other team that was in your group come through to the finals now?
Definitely our team from, I mean, the team from our group. I feel like we had the best group like from the start. We had like all the top teams.
I love how you say that, just because it's just like, yo, we had to fight our way here.
No.
We had this from the beginning. So I respect that. Like, I do. The fact that you guys have come through and you've found the other teams going so well. You guys have come together so nicely, though. What has it been like for someone who has never played in a randomized tournament, getting to know players that you've never played with before, and how did you get to such a good standing and such a good cohesion so far?
Okay, so I think it was easy for us because we had 2 groups of 3 people that queued up together, right?
Nice.
That's already 3 people that, you know each other, friends, whatever, in the same team, doesn't matter. But we just played together and really found what our comp is and what works best for us. And then we just kind of ran with it. We're not really going to switch, so that's it.
That helps when you go to, like, you 3 do your thing and then us 3 do that thing, and then we'll meet somewhere in the middle, kill them.
Exactly. So I mean, it's a 2 DPS and then Shadows, and Shadows just pockets, like, you watch the thing. He doesn't get a left click, right click on the DPS. He doesn't even heal the tanks, like, most of the time. He just say, okay, on the DPS. So we do our own thing, tanks do their own thing, and the other support heals the tanks. It seems to work pretty well, I think.
Our pocket.
I mean, yeah, that's exactly. You've got a nice 3-3 split there, something that's really allowing you to individually take apart components there. We saw in that game, though, Need for Feed did come out with that ball style comp, that hard disruption style comp that it seemed for a lot of the Lijiang Tower game in particular, you guys were struggling with. How were you able to, on Dorado, so effectively shut it down and so effectively dismantle the parts of it that, you know, it had provided you trouble in the first game of this map to actually completely dominate on that map?
Yeah, so we did some homework. We were watching their previous match and we saw they were playing the Ball Diva comp. So we were expecting our Lijiang, so we tried like think what we could do to stop it. That's why we had the McCree and whatever, but it didn't work that well. But we knew the other maps would be better because we could play Ashe. We couldn't play Ashe on Lijiang, and I carried on Ashe, so...
That's why you're here. You did have a very, very good game as far as that went. So, you know, congratulations and well played.
Thank you.
It's nice to have Shadows just pocketing you all the time.
Exactly, I couldn't do it without him. Did you see when he entered into the Junkrat mines, though? You saw that, right?
I mean,
Yeah,
of course we did. You know, we have to point out that Shadows is a massive feeder.
Yep, that needs to be clipped. 100%.
Considering you play with him often and you came in like buddies with him, you do realize he's gonna have to pocket you. Like at some stage in a just very casual match, you're gonna be standing out there being like, yes, I'm being pocketed, and then being completely alone. Like you're just gonna Pharah into the back lines and then nothing.
Yeah, that's true. But we always make fun of him. You know, he's hard stuck. Like, yeah. So we always roast him about everything. He's used to it by now.
Seems that you guys got that cohesion, and it's nice going into this finals now.
Yes.
You know, we do have the teams that are you're going to be playing against here are going to be the Grant Hindenburgs or Lunatic Hello. Lunatic Hello came through first in your seed, so that's the team that you are very worried about. They were your only loss. You guys went down 3-1.
Yeah.
You guys sound like you do a lot of homework on your teams. You knew that
we do.
was going to be coming through with their Diva Ball combos. Have you looked at Lunatic Hello, analyzed their play, and then figured out how to beat the way that they beat you?
We have.
You don't have
yes.
to say how. You don't have to give away your secrets. I just want to know, have you figured out how to beat them?
We have, yes. I think we should have won the match previously as well. We just kind of didn't really know what to do at the time, but we do now, so I think it'll be better.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's still not even decided that that's the team you will be playing against. It's currently 1-1 on a map 3 there.
It's a 1-1
in the other. Yeah, it's about 1-1 in the other semi-final right now. So you know, watch that one carefully. Could be a little bit of a surprise coming there.
I think we would prefer to play against the Grant Hindenburgs or whatever, just because I think we could, you know, counter them better. I'm not gonna give away my strats, but yeah.
Well, Need for Speed did go 4-0 in their bracket. So Need for Speed was uncontested, and you guys swept them here tonight. So you can be feeling quite comfortable if it is going to be the Grant Hindenburgs. You have already taken out their successes. But if they make it through to the finals, then, you know, group stage doesn't always tell everything. Maybe people have improved. How would you say you guys have improved as a unit from yesterday today? A big significant jump?
We've definitely improved like a lot. Because yesterday we were still like trying out comps, trying to figure out what to play exactly, and we didn't really know. But today we 100% know what we're doing.
And when it comes to, like, we were talking about it before the map, just the improvement in individual players and how you guys have improved playing from other players. Have you found that you have picked up any cool new tricks, skills, impressive abilities, teamwork tips that from the guys that you played with today?
No.
Well, there you have it, folks. This tournament was a complete waste of time. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the fight.
Cool, well, thank you.
Sevren, for the rest of you, where can we follow you guys as a team? Well, obviously not as a team, but you as an individual, or if you want to flaunt anyone else coming out from your social organization.
Oh, okay. You can follow me on Twitter. It's Sevren OW, I think. I'm not quite sure. You can also donate to me on PayPal. I'll link my PayPal link in the Twitch stream. It's a paypal.me link. You just click it, you type in the amount, and then you click enter. Super easy.
We're not doing that, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're not doing that.
Okay, we're not doing that. But yes,
But it's
Twitter.
your social media links, guys. You have to be supporting now.
Exactly. Okay, it's just Twitter. Yeah, I only have Twitter. Unlike you.
Fantastic, guys. We're going to be looking at jumping into the other game. That we want to see how the final's going. I mean, they're 1-1. We're going to see who 7-11's going to be going in. Are we going into the other game? So far, it's 1-1. I'd like to see what's going on there. Otherwise, guys, stay around for the finals. It's going to be very soon. Blur, do you have anything to say about this tournament in general and how it's been going, what it's for, the idea behind this Pride Cup?
I think it's very interesting to see how teams end up interacting with one another in terms of, you know, their SRs and the skill of the players on the sides there. Because all of these teams conceptually should be very close and should be very balanced. But I mean, we come into a game here where we see a very clean 3-0 from the side of 7-11 here. So it's always very interesting to see how the individual differences between players, more so than the, you know, the sum of their individual parts kind of lays out. So how they kind of, how the cohesion as a unit delivers rather than, you know, this player's 4.2, this player's 3.4, you know, whatever. It's just interesting to see that. And I think, you know, this is a perfect example. We've seen, you know, match after match go 3-1, 3-2 yesterday. Coming to the semi-finals here, a match that we're expecting to be tooth and nail. But, you know, here it is, 3-0. Out of nowhere.
Yeah, this tournament's really cool. It would be nice to have, like, more tournaments like this, you know? Because it's really fun just playing with random people and, like, trying to form a team, in my opinion.
Oh, of course it is. So, guys, that brings us to the end of this semi-finals. Sevren, you guys gonna go warm up now, or just go grab, you know, something to drink and?
Yeah, we're hungry. We're gonna eat.
You're gonna eat. Nice. It's gonna be good. So far, updates 2-1 to the Grant Hindenburgs.
Ooh,
So,
yes.
actually, might be them that you're taking on. So go discuss some strategies, see which way it goes. So far, not confirmed either way. But guys, don't go anywhere. Blur, where can we find you if we want to keep up to date on your social media?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm blur_RSA. I'm absolutely secure on what that social media tag is now, despite having made mistakes on it during the weekend. So blur_RSA for me on Twitter. No other social media links to speak of at this point in time.
It's nice when you're able to, you know, follow yourself on a social media. It's like the worst business card ever. Something? I don't know. You know, find me. You guys, if you know me, you'll know me. So I'm Ultraism, guys, at Ultraism on Twitter, and we cannot wait to see you for your finals. It's going to be brought to you by Sun Phoenix and Naori, if I'm not mistaken. They are going to be very excited. We'll see you soon. Bye.